Ambassador Pillai will moderate the question and answer session. For those who are posing questions, please proceed to the standing mic along the aisle that is closest to you and begin by identifying yourself and the organization you represent. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Khan, for a wonderful speech. Before I start the question and answers, I already see a long queue there. I just want to make a small appeal to Mr. Khan. Please do not demolish the governor's residence in Lahore. It's a beautiful building, and it could be a fantastic museum in your government. So please don't demolish it. I've been there for dinner when I was High Commissioner of Singapore to Pakistan, and it has got architectural features which are very, very beautiful. So please consider that as a request. Now,
Ambassador Pillai, can I just reiterate what I said? I said that the walls will come down, outside walls. I did not say that the building will come down. The building will be made either into a library or a museum, as you know.
Fantastic. I'm sorry, I didn't catch the subtle distinction. I thought you were going to raise it to the ground. Now,
there are other buildings I have in mind that will be raised to the ground, but not the government house.
Yes. Some of them do need to be raised. But now, some basic rules. Please give your name. Do not make a speech. The speech was given by Mr. Imran Khan. I don't want any speeches. Yes, if you have a brief comment, that's fine. But it must be followed by one or two questions. And we'll try and accommodate as many as possible. So I see number one is from ISIS itself, Surya. Yes, your question.
So, Surya from ISIS. So your excellent coverage of the current situation in Pakistan. There was only one missing element, if I may dare say so. You didn't say much about the Pakistan Army and its involvement in Pakistani politics over the decades. Is Pakistan Army in any way radicalized and in any sense? If so, what will be your solution? And secondly, you did mention your visit to China. China has always said, and Pakistan has reciprocated the statement, that China and Pakistan are all-weather friends. In the present crisis situation in Pakistan, is there something you would be looking towards China for setting matters right in Pakistan? Although I would expect Pakistan to resort to self-help, as India did. Thank you.
The Pakistan Army. I think, as I mentioned before, that Pakistan will have to be run like it's never been run before. It has to be governed completely differently, and of course it means the relationship between the Pakistan Army and the civilian government. One of the reasons why the army has interfered over the previous decades is because there has become a political vacuum. Political governments have failed, and the Pakistan Army has come in and filled the void. The reason why I think this will no longer happen is because Pakistan has moved forward. The thought process has moved on in Pakistan. No longer is any section of the society today thinking that the military is an answer. If the democratic government fails, no one now thinks that the military can come and solve the problem, because we have finally realized that military interfering into civilian affairs is like trying to cure cancer with disprin. You feel better for a while and then the cancer spreads. So basically Pakistan needs to replace poor democratic governments with better democratic governments. And so I feel, number one, that if the army was going to interfere at any time, it should have been in these past 5 years, because never has the governance been as bad as now, lawlessness and all the things I pointed out. And the reason why it didn't interfere is because I think the army also realized, first time it realizes that it does not have the answer to Pakistan's problem. They need a civilian government with a mandate, which has the moral authority to then make the reforms that are needed in the country. And I just give you an example of Turkey. The Turkish army's record is almost same as the Pakistan army's record. The difference in the last 10 years has been that in Turkey they had a democratic government which performed, which had moral authority, which the people backed, had the people's mandate. And we have seen that in Turkey, gradually the army moved to the position it should be, to defending the borders. No longer is Turkish army likely ever to interfere in Turkish democracy again. I feel that the Pakistan army, the moment you have a government that performs, I think that the same will happen in Pakistan. About China, I think there's nothing China can do right now. We have to sort our affairs. The problems we are facing in Pakistan can only be sorted out by Pakistanis. But what China can do is after, inshallah, Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf comes to power, what China can then do is help us in various areas. One is poverty alleviation, but the other is, mega cities in China. The experience that they have learned from these huge cities and how to govern them is invaluable for us, because Karachi is already 16 million people. We can learn a lot from China in so many affairs, issues, but specifically how to run the mega cities. And we would want investment from China once we get the governance system going. I think China is one of the few economies with surplus cash which can then invest in Pakistan.
Can I, just 1 minute, I think this lady has been here a bit longer, please.
Thank you. I'm Nasreen Adil. I'm a housewife and I'm from Islamabad. So, you have been speaking about managing the administrative, political and terrorism mess in Pakistan. How would you be able to bring about a driving force to imbue two nation-building characters in people? Industrious and honesty. These are the two forces which has built this awe-inspiring Singapore.
I think if we just take the Singapore example, then the leadership plays a very big part. The leadership sets the tone, it sets the values, the value system, it sets up the institutions. So a lot depends on the leadership in a country. Unfortunately, in Pakistan, after the one great leader we had, Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah, we actually did not have a leadership that had that moral authority to lift the morality and the value system of the entire country. We Muslims derive the values of our Prophet, peace be upon him. In the state of Medina, without passing laws, the Prophet and the people around him, their values were such that they raised the whole morality of the society. The other classic case is of Victorian England. One person, Queen Victoria's husband, Prince Albert, a man of great moral standing, was able to change the whole value system of the Victorian era. And the whole century was known as, Victorian values and Victorian morality. So I think a lot depends on the leadership. If the leadership sets the tone, it then goes right down to the grassroots.
Allow me to add a little bit to it.
No, I'm sorry, you have to wait your turn. Yes.
Good evening, I'm Sabanur and I'm from Pakistan, working here as a research analyst in International Center for Political Violence and Terrorism Research. I am SPVTR NTU. So I have a couple of questions regarding the counterterrorism policy of PTI. As you mentioned, or you favor that we need to win hearts and mind of the groups, right? So my question is that you prefer to engage them in dialogue process. If these groups are not agree or come up for the dialogue, so what will be your next strategy? What will be the plan, your plan B? And my second question is regarding that you talk about to separate the hardcore militants with the low-cadre ones, and also to separate Taliban with the Al-Qaeda. So I'm keen to know that which mechanism you will adopt and what will be your plan to separate them? So thank you very much.
Okay. Now this is I was deliberately trying to keep it concise. This is a very big subject. Just understand one thing, that there were no, when Taliban as an ideology was in power in Afghanistan between 96 and 2001, there was no Talibanization in Pakistan. So in other words, the ideology of Taliban had no takers in Pakistan. In fact, in the entire Muslim history, there has never been a theocracy like Taliban. Taliban were a special, the circumstances in Afghanistan created the Taliban. And the circumstances were such that hundreds and thousands of people died after 1989 in the civil war once the Soviets left. And the warlords fought each other and they carved out Afghanistan into their fiefdoms. And in this chaos rose Taliban, not of their religious ideology, because the Mujahideen were considered religious fanatics by the Soviets. So it's not that Taliban replaced some secular regime. They replaced what the Soviets called religious fanatics. The reason why Taliban succeeded was they promised the people of Afghanistan, war-torn Afghanistan, the rule of law. So, if you understand that, then how did Taliban appear in Pakistan? In 2004, Pakistani forces were sent into Waziristan, 2003, 2004, because the Americans pressed the Pakistan army that after Tora Bora, some Al-Qaeda had crossed over because the border was, it was adjacent to the tribal areas. So they had said some Al-Qaeda had come into Pakistan. That's why the Americans forced the Pakistan army to go there. Now, initially when the Pakistani army went in, they were garlanded by the tribesmen. In fact, 240 Al-Qaeda were handed over to the Pakistan army by the tribal people. The blunder made by General Musharraf, and I really say that this was blunder, and my speech is still in the parliament, which I made when he started military operations in Waziristan. The blunder he made was that rather than using the tribes to capture Al-Qaeda or stop insurgents going on to the other side, he sent the Pakistan army. This was a blunder because Pakistan army went into the tribal area like a bull in a china shop. How could they tell who was a militant? Every man in tribal area is armed. So how would the Pakistan army know who's a militant? And secondly, when they were attacked, or when they did a couple of operations and they were attacked by the tribes, they ended up using helicopter gunships, F-16s, artillery to bomb villages. The moment they created collateral damage, that was the beginning of creating what became later on known as the Pakistan Taliban. In other words, it was not ideology that created the Pakistan Taliban. It was a reaction to collateral damage. The tribesmen reacted, revenge is part of the code of honor. That's how we ended up creating militants in Pakistan. And not many of you know this, 8th February 2004, the tribes of Waziristan were going to sign a pact with the Pakistan government that they would not allow any militants to go from Pakistan, from the tribal areas into Afghanistan. 2004, 9th February, that pact was going to be signed. I've seen that agreement. And unfortunately, there had been an attack on Musharraf, a suicide attack, which he thought was from South Waziristan. And on that basis, on 9th of February, he sent Pakistan army in for military operation. And that was the biggest blunder he committed, because what happened was that those tribes, the Maliks who were willing to sign this agreement with the Pakistan, there was a rebellion against them over the next 6 months. A lot of these Maliks were murdered, killed by the uprising, and soon you had this phenomena of Pakistani Taliban. It was in fact 2 years of this madness led to, in 2006 was the first time we heard about the Pakistan Taliban. Now, we're back to this question of what do we do? So the moment you disengage, now what has happened is that who is fighting under the Taliban? Number one are the Pashtun nationalists who've reacted to collateral damage, who've reacted to the NATO occupation of Afghanistan, because remember the Pashtuns are the most xenophobic people. Throughout their history, they have fought every invader. The tribes fight each other, but when a foreigner comes, they all get together. So, I mean, you just have to look at the history. So the moment the NATO occupation forces landed in Afghanistan, Taliban ceased to be Taliban, became Pashtuns. And the moment they became Pashtuns, they were always going to get help. Now, so there are Pashtun nationalists. There is hardly any, but some small numbers of Al-Qaeda. There are the ideological Taliban, which is again a minuscule proportion, but actually now have assumed leadership role. But the foot soldiers are either effectees of collateral damage or Pashtun nationalists, or who think the American war is not against terrorism but against Islam. So if it's a war against Islam, I'm telling you, it's a never-ending war. There will never be enough people. There will always be enough people who will be willing to die for their religion. So this is a never-ending war. That's why Pakistan. Well, when NATO leaves Afghanistan, obviously this frenzy will stop. But in the meanwhile, Pakistan must disengage, because otherwise we are the biggest target of this growing militancy and extremism which think that Pakistan is supporting the US. So now the question is, what if it doesn't happen? If you understand the phenomena, you know that military is not a solution. First of all, decide one thing: military is no solution now. All it is doing is it's being counterproductive. They can't tell who's a militant, who's not. They end up bombing villages, whether it's drone attacks. I mean, the idea that drone attacks are specifically targeting militants. A bomb explodes in a village, mud houses, and it only kills militants is just a myth. There's massive collateral damage taking place. The main beneficiary of collateral damage are the militants. So anyone to seek revenge then becomes a Taliban. Then there's massive unemployment in that area. There's their agriculture is destroyed, their trade is destroyed. So young people are joining the Taliban because to become a Taliban, you can actually, there are various groups who are, the biggest business going is kidnapping for ransom now. So that's how they make money. Or they will join the Taliban who have enough money to pay the foot soldiers. So it's just getting worse. The moment you disengage, the moment a sovereign government comes and it's no longer, they're not fighting America's war, that's when you will deconstruct this whole thing and then isolate maybe the ideological Taliban, which I think are not that many, and maybe Al-Qaeda, you will, but who will do it? The people of your tribal areas. They are the ones. That's why I keep the whole march was, engage them. Once you win them over to your side, you win the war. You keep pushing them over to that side by bombing them, causing collateral damage. It's a never-ending war.
Yes.
I'm Afroz Ahmed Shah. I'm actually a postdoc fellow here.
Can you speak into the mic?
Sorry, can I hold it? I'm a postdoc here in Nanyang Technological University. My question is related to the Kashmir issue. What do you think about the Kashmir? What is the most viable solution to this issue? Second part of the question is, do you think Kashmir is an integral part of India? Because India always thinks that Kashmir is an integral part. What do you think?
Do I think Kashmir is an integral part of India? Look, let me first say, what is the solution? The solution is, it has to be with the aspirations of people of Kashmir, because they have suffered tremendously. And, you know, since I'm always against military solutions, this idea that 600,000-700,000 Indian troops will somehow, some sort of solution will come out, I think that it is a completely counterproductive policy, because India is losing the hearts and minds of people. There's massive human rights violations going on there. Whenever you send army in civilian areas, there's always going to be massive human rights violation. Always the police is the one who can deal in civilian areas, never the army. Army is not equipped to deal with civilian areas. Hence, every Pakistani military operation has failed. starting from East Pakistan to 3 in Balochistan, to 1 in Sindh, to the tribal area of Fata, they've all failed in the sense that they've not produced the results. So, and neither is India going to win the hearts and minds of people by having 600,000-700,000 troops there. I think it is in the interest of India and Pakistan to find a solution now. For India, they are alienating the people of Kashmir, and whenever they will be given a chance to express their will, I can tell you there will be more people now wanting independence from India than even before, because they've been alienated by army presence there. So therefore, it's in the interest of both the countries to have peace, Pakistan, India, and peace means the will of the people of Kashmir. Now, why do I think that there is a solution? There are 3 ex-foreign ministers in PTI now. And all 3 ex-foreign ministers tell me that we came pretty close to some sort of a solution. During, not the Congress, but the BJP time. We hear that they almost came to a solution which was actually very viable. And I think that it is possible. I mean, because there were back channel contacts, so I can't tell you exactly what they were, what the solution was, but there is a solution there. It is possible. It can happen.
Yes. No? Yes.
My name is Mansoor Shaukat and I am a PhD research scholar at NUS. My question pertains to the terrorism and faction-based killings in Pakistan. I feel that there is a generic ignorance when it comes to religion in Pakistan, because an insignificant minority goes towards the religious education, and the whole majority which takes the path of some technological or other occupations don't really know. For example, we don't even know the exact translation of Quran that we have. So generally what happens is someone tells us that this is in Quran, so we do jihad. So we all start doing jihad. So you have a unified education plan, right? So how will you integrate the madrasas into the mainstream education, and how the mainstream education will benefit from the Dini Talim? Thank you so much.
You know, the idea that it's because of madrasas that we are having fanaticism, if this was correct, then we should know that madrasas have always existed in the subcontinent. In fact, before the British imposed the English medium here, this is in 1830s, the best education was in the madrasas. William Dalrymple writes this book, The Last Mover, and he talks about the British Delhi College and about the 2 big madrasas in Delhi. And according to him, the standard of the madrasas was far superior to the Delhi College. In fact, G.W. Lettner, who was the first principal of Government College, he writes in 1830s, that in some of the madrasas, the top madrasas, the standard was equal to Oxford and Cambridge. So therefore, it wasn't always the case. We have degenerated, not just in the madrasa education, but in all education in Pakistan. We have a 3-tiered system. English medium for the elite. And then in the English medium also, they are sort of one which make us completely de-Pakistanized. You know, when we become embarrassed to be called Pakistanis, that's sort of, you try to think that you are an American living in Pakistan. And then there is this other, the Urdu medium education produced, all the government schools produced the best intellectuals right up to the 70s. All the top intellectuals came from government schools. Sadly, the government school system was starved of funds. Per capita investment into government education went down in the 80s and 90s, and now even more. So this private school industry came up. So everyone, you know, opened up these English medium schools as shops. And basically, I think they're language schools, they're not even educational institutions. They all teach you how to behave and look like and sort of have these mannerisms of Western education, but actually they don't even give proper education. So we have this, you need complete reform in education in Pakistan. It's not just Urdu medium or Dini madrasas, you need a total reform. Reason why Musharraf failed, he got $100 million, I remember, to reform the madrasas. He failed because the moment Musharraf started reforming madrasas, they said it's yet another blow against Islam. So it's not, it depends who does it. So if you take education as a whole, I think people are ready for reforms. And ignorance is a sin. Ignorance creates fanatics. But ignorant people never run the helm of affairs. How have these people, I'm specifically referring to sectarian violence in Pakistan, where Shias are being murdered everywhere. This is not just a thing of ignorance. These sectarian groups were created politically. They were not created by the madrasas. The madrasas were created to produce these sectarian outfits. And we really need to clamp down on them. You cannot have any educational institution which is spewing hate against another sect. This just cannot be allowed in any society. And finally, we need a reform, total reform of our education system, which is vital. We need to have one system, one core syllabus for everyone. This is the biggest challenge Pakistan faces. This governance system, in my opinion, is relatively easy. Terrorism is relatively easy. But this is the biggest challenge, how to have one system, one core syllabus. Tehreek-e-Insaf right now is debating this. We have various scholars trying to work out what will be this one core syllabus. It's not an easy thing. And especially the English medium are already scared that we will have some radical reforms where they will no longer be able to wear baseball caps and chew gum and speak English in an American accent.
My name is Renee Chu, and from Travel Business. You have, in your 20 years of your political career, survived bankruptcy, imprisonment, threats to your life, to your family. At any one point, have you thought of giving up? And also, how concerned are you of your personal safety in view of all the violence against your iconic leaders? Secondly, also in the preview, can you give us a preview between now and election day? What can go wrong for you, terribly wrong, in terms of the challenges coming up?
Well, firstly, when I joined politics, before I joined politics, I had overcome the fear of death. If I was scared of dying, I would not have joined politics. So I had already come to terms with it. And that fear gradually left me, especially when I built this cancer hospital, and I used to watch people come in looking quite healthy, and 6 months away they were gone. So this idea that we fool ourselves that somehow death can be avoided, this is a myth. It cannot be avoided. There are millions of ways of dying. So I'd already come to terms with it, and I felt a responsibility because I had this gradually over a period of my life I became spiritual. The spiritual way of life just means that you realize that there's a purpose to existence, that you're not just here for me and I. If you're privileged, you have a responsibility to society. So therefore I felt that if I'm criticizing these people, these crooks who are running our country, then what am I doing? So that's how I decided that rather than depressing myself to sleep every night, I should do something about it, and the only way was politics. What do I think can go wrong from between now and the elections? Nothing. I don't think I think one of the great wise men and the great statesman, one of the greatest statesmen was Abraham Lincoln. And I always remember his famous saying, you cannot fool all the people all the time. So what is going to happen is this old political guard is living in a time warp. They still think that they can buy this election. They are spending billions now. They've got so scared of the tsunami, which is this movement which we lead. They're so scared of that that they are pouring in money into the media. They virtually eliminated us. You can hardly see us in the media anymore, because they have spent so much money. We are up against two governments, the central and the biggest government, which is Punjab. So we are up against two governments, against the media cells, against the advertisement. See, this problem with, we say that the media is free, but the problem is media is influenced by advertisements. And the advertisements, sadly, are not with Tehreek Insaf or with these two main governments. So they're using this money to give the impression that this tsunami has lost momentum. But how can it lose momentum? Because it is a movement for change. So either we will do something stupid by, okay, one thing we can go wrong, I'll tell you what we can do. If the candidate of Tehreek Insaf, if that image does not reflect the party's ideology, that's what can go wrong. The only way we can go wrong is if we select the wrong candidates. That's all. But we have found a system where we will make sure, because we are having intra-party elections, first time in the history of subcontinent, any party is holding intra-party elections where open membership, the members can elect their leaders. And also it means that the members will elect the district organizations. And that will mean that the elected district organizations will recommend who the candidates are. So we will know who the members want to give tickets to. It will give us an idea that, who the members will back if which sort of candidates they'll back. That is the only guarantee we have that we will make the right choices. And so the answer is, if we make the right choices, none of them can beat us.
Yes.
Hi, this is Zohaib Khan here, and I work for Standard Chartered Bank in Singapore, originally from Lahore. So my question is around the elections which are going to happen in 2013, right? There are rumors, you can say, that elections might not be taking place and a caretaker setup or a technocratic setup would lead us to the next year, right? So even if the elections take place, and as you just mentioned that there is a lot of money pouring into the media and elections are expected to be rigged this time as well. So post-election timeline, how do you see yourself in that situation? Because I think to me the tipping point has come in Pakistan and we cannot wait for another 5 years to pass through, right? And on a very lighter note, just expecting a comment on that, on a very lighter note, I was listening to the ex-president Pervez Musharraf a few days back, and he mentioned that अगर इमरान खान मेरे साथ alliance नहीं करना चाहता, तो मैं भी उनको 2 किक मार के दूर भगा दूंगा. So just your comments on that. Thank you.
डिपेंड करता है कि परवेज मुशर्रफ ने शाम की किस वक्त ये तकरीर You can spend money on media and confuse them. But no one has ever been able to win elections by pouring money into media. I'll just give you an example. The last time there was a public movement which defeated all the status quo parties was by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto in 1970. And in those days, the television was only, there was only PTV, government-controlled channel. And then the 2 or 3 newspapers were government-controlled, total censorship. So Bhutto's news would only arrive, in the inside pages you would have 2 or 3 lines. But people would look into the inside pages to read those 2 or 3 lines. In other words, when the collective wisdom of people, when they come up with a decision, you can do whatever you want. You can try and distort everything, you can have propaganda, you can have, as what's happening right now, there is a disinformation campaign going on against us. But you cannot do anything because, as I keep repeating, you cannot fool all the people all the time. They've seen these people again and again. The government in waiting is the Punjab government. This is the 5th time they are ruling Punjab in 25 years. And I suddenly heard the other day Nawaz Sharif saying, मैं भी एक नया पाकिस्तान बनाऊंगा. हमने कहा कि मियां साहब पहले नया पंजाब तो बनाते हैं. made up their mind. और मैं नवाज जो मैं कहता हूँ अगले दिन नवाज शरीफ को ही कहना शुरू कर देता है पाकिस्तान है और यूथ उनको भी यूथ याद आ गई. So I don't think that whatever they do, a lot of money they're going to pour in, but there's something. I have a strategy. I cannot tell you the entire strategy, but I'm telling you that it's a winning strategy. And if anyone is a betting person here, not money, dinner bets. Put your money on Tariq Insaf because we win.
Thank you for the opportunity. Welcome to Singapore. My name is Umar Bilal and I've been here for about 10 years. The question that I have for you today is, what is your plan to attract Pakistanis who've been living overseas, specifically talented Pakistanis who left for education, want to come back to Pakistan but they want opportunities as well? And on a lighter note, I want to know, if you get elected, I do hope you do get elected, what will be your plan to revamp our cricket board and restore our pride in the cricketing board? Thank you.
Well, I'll answer your second question first. Cricket is at a micro level what's happening at a macro level. So you need to make cricket into an institution. The reason why cricket is in a mess is because it's run on ad hoc basis. The moment the president of Pakistan, who might know zero about cricket and he does know nothing about cricket, the moment he appoints the cricket board president, that's where everything goes wrong. So it can never become an institution. Because what is the qualification of the president of the chairman of the cricket board? The president likes him. So how can cricket become an institution? So therefore, that's it. So all you need to do in Pakistan, we are very fortunate that there is more talent in Pakistan, and here's someone who's spent 21 years in cricket internationally. Never have I seen as much talent anywhere in the world except in Pakistan. I'll just give you an example. This poor boy, I'm saying poor from the Pakistan point of view, although he did make a serious mistake. But then how can you blame Mohammad Amir if the patron-in-chief of cricket is Asif Zardari? So he was... I've never seen a more talented fast bowler, and until him I thought Wasim Akram was the most talented I saw. I have never seen a more talented fast bowler anywhere as that 19-year-old. Now this is the sort of talent which comes despite the system. There is no system in Pakistan. When I was the captain, the main players I picked who were not playing domestic cricket. I mean, who were not playing the first-class cricket. So it never happens before. In no other cricketing country it happens that you just pick like Wakar, Yunus, and hardly played any cricket, or Inzamam and so on. So all of them, there is no shortage of talent there. There is no system. So same as it's what is happening in Pakistan. The reason why our best talent gets pushed outside the country is because there is no system of merit in the country. So our biggest resource of Pakistan lies abroad. Overseas Pakistanis are the biggest resource of Pakistan. Inshallah, when we fix the governance system, what we hope is that the best investment, capital investment will come from overseas Pakistanis, and the best human investment will come from overseas Pakistanis. The example is Shaukat Khanum Cancer Hospital. It is one of the best, it can compete with any international hospitals. It's a specialized cancer hospital. If you go into the Middle East and see similar cancer hospitals, you will find that most of the staff is expatriate community, they're not locals. In Shaukat Khanum, the entire staff is local, and the reason why we can build international level institutions is because we have this resource pool outside the country. So you can always draw on them, provided you give them the working environment they need. So I think that we can build an institution in the country. My mission is politics, my passion is this university which I'm building. And I think my dream is that this will become the Oxford University of Pakistan. And the reason why I know we will succeed is because there are enough educated Pakistani PhDs who want to come back. So unfortunately to this day, the government of Punjab for 4 years has not transferred the land which we paid for already in Namal University. For 4 years they haven't transferred the land. And so I told everyone, I said, don't worry about the Punjab government anymore because it's only a few months, 4 more months we can do without the land, and then we'll get it anyway. So the moment we build the hostels, which we're all ready to build, the moment we build the infrastructure, which will take us maximum a year, we will draw the best Pakistani brains outside to staff this university. So therefore, I feel that our biggest resources overseas Pakistanis, unfortunately, they cannot invest in Pakistan because of the corrupt environment. The poor overseas Pakistanis, the maximum money they spend is on a flat or on a piece of land. They end up buying plots, and then when they come back, they find that the plot has been cubs out by someone and taken over by someone. This friend of mine who had spent so much time abroad, he bought this piece of land in Islamabad, finally got raised enough money to come and build a house. And he's walking around in Islamabad with this map and trying to find where the plot has gone. And discovers there's a building standing on his plot. So he goes to the police, and this is a true story, he goes to the police station and discovers that there is an FIR being cut against him for trying to occupy someone else's plot. So poor guy, he had to run from pillar to post to actually stop the police from hounding him. So this is how, when you don't have any, when there's no governance system, I'm afraid you can have no investment.
Yes.
Assalamualaikum sir, my name is Ahmed and I'm a PhD scholar at NUS, the National University of Singapore. I'm also part of the Graduate Student Council over there. And part of what I do is that I have a lot of meetings with the academic and the administrative staff in NUS. And what I feel is that they take student feedback very, very importantly. In fact, even if a single student has a grievance, they make sure that they have a number of discussions and meetings amongst themselves so that they solve the issue. However, in Pakistan, my experiences were the opposite. And I believe a student, especially at the university level, you're talking about 18 to 22 years old during this bachelor's degree, his voice needs to be heard. Otherwise, he gets disgruntled, and I believe that is one of the reasons why they join political youth wings. Let's say Punjab University, because it's kind of like a hunting ground over there, and you yourself have an experience over there as well. So my question is that with your policy, you may be pumping money into institutions, and you may provide facilities, but how will you change the basic mindset of the administration over there? They still have the same mindset against the students or against anyone who needs them.
If you come to, and I would ask all of you if you have time, please visit Shaukat Khanum Cancer Hospital. Now, it's the same hospital in Pakistan. The same culture should be prevailing in the hospital. In 17 years since the hospital has opened, only once I tried to ask for a favor from the hospital administration. This big donor in the hospital who had given millions and millions to build a ward and regularly gives money, his mother got cancer. Now his mother's cancer, it was 5 years above the limit which was imposed in the hospital. They would not treat cancers of that particular type and they had set an age limit. So she was only 5 years over the limit. So I called them up, I said, look, for 17 years I've never asked you for anything. This is a special case. Please make an exception of this case and admit the mother. So they said, okay, you're the chairman, so the board sat down, and the next day they refused. They said, I'm afraid the hospital rules do not allow this. So that's why it is an institution and it works. What I'm saying is that the culture comes from the top. Once all institutions in Pakistan, you have the proper people sitting on top, whether it's universities, the culture permeates right down. So in Shaukat Khanum, I'm proud to say that there's this friend of mine who runs this big drug company called Fazaldeen's in Lahore. He came to me and he congratulated me. 6 years after the hospital was open, he said, they sell drugs to all hospitals in Pakistan. It is the only hospital where the doctors do not take any commission on drugs. So, talking about universities, this is exactly what will happen. If you have proper management, you create a proper culture. Students, in Punjab University, the student union, which is a very healthy thing because you produce future leaders, but when they're turned into a mafia, whose fault is it? The government and the administration. The government patronizes these mafias in universities.
Yes.
Hi, my name is Rashid. I'm a working professional here, originally from Lahore. Mr. Imran, you have elegantly described what PTI policy would be when it comes to fighting Taliban or taking care of that problem. But what I would like to ask is what PTI's policy would be when it comes to sectarianism, because I think it's an older problem than Talibanization of society. Thanks.
The sectarian issue really started in the 80s. And before that, I grew up, I didn't even know who was a Shia, who was a Sindhi, who was a Deobandi, Brahilvi. I didn't even know any of this. It's only recently I found out about these divisions in our society. And this is deliberate. It started in the 80s when the Saudis and the Iranians had a turf war in Pakistan and they backed different groups. That's how it started. And now I'm afraid this is part of a bigger international conspiracy, what's happening in Pakistan. I think in Iraq, the Shia and Sunni did not just start fighting each other when Saddam Hussein left. If they were so pent up and ready to fight, they should have immediately been at each other's throats. It took 3 years for someone to make the Shia and Sunni fight each other. And now you see it's everywhere. It's in Bahrain, in Lebanon, in Yemen. And this is part of that, and this upsurge in violence, sectarian violence, is not just coincidental. But I do believe that the government has patronized these groups, establishment has patronized these sectarian groups. And so I do not think this is a more serious problem. I think because they have patronized the groups, the moment that they take away the patronage, this can be clamped down upon. Much more serious is this Taliban issue because this is destroying rule of law in Pakistan. It is such a big issue that the police is completely incapacitated. The police can't fight the Taliban. They don't have the ways and means of fighting them. And so they are consistent. Every day, the police is being attacked in KP, in the Pakhtunkhwa province. Every day, some police station has been attacked. Senior police officers are being killed. So this is unsustainable, and that's why we need to. That is a more serious problem, and then you can isolate these different groups, sectarian groups, and then take them on or eliminate them.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Nabil Noshahi and I'm a banking professional here in Singapore. I have two questions. The first one is regarding the terrorism policy of your party and yours as well. How, if you were to come into power, how would you tackle the groups that do not believe in the state of Pakistan as a democratic state? Especially the Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan. Hakimullah Mahsood is very clear that they actually want to take over the whole state and impose the Sharia government. And the second group I have in mind is the BLA, the Baloch Liberation Army, who do not want to take over Pakistan, but they want to get separated from Pakistan. Now, they are not ready for any sort of negotiations of any sort. And they are not fighting because they think that Pakistan is an ally of America in the war of terror. They are fighting for their ideological reasons. And how do you think that you will be able to motivate them or come into dialogue of any sort with them? And my second question is regarding the taxation policy. Even if you have a full clean sweep and you come with full majority in the assemblies, you'll still be dealing with the same bureaucracy that has been corrupt for 60 years in Pakistan. How would you make sure and how would you eliminate the bureaucracy, the corruption happening in the bureaucracy?
Okay. Number one, BLA. The BLA problem is not as big as the problem of Taliban, TTP. Reason why BLA problem is not big is half of Balochistan is Pashtun, so there's no BLA in the Pashtun areas. The other half, there are only certain 3 tribes that are fighting. And the 3 tribes that are up in arms, and BLA belongs to those 3 tribes. It is, as I said, we have to have a good relationship with India. And if our relationship with India is it gets normalized, friendly, open, trustworthy. And then if we have a proper relationship with Afghanistan, because these two are connected, once the outside influence is eliminated in the BLA factor, the BLA will gradually come back to the dialogue table and you will be able to negotiate. Basically, Balochistan needs rights. It's a rights movement. Pakistan has treated Balochistan like a colony. And unless we address the issue, we have always used military as an option and failed. And also we treat, the way we have ruled Balochistan is like the colonialists ruled Balochistan, basically through not feudals but the Sardars. What should happen in Balochistan, apart from giving them rights, more money going into Balochistan for the development, their resources mainly to be spent on them. Balochistan needs a police system. Police is only 5% of Balochistan. The rest are levies controlled by the Sardars, paid by the government. They cannot give justice to the people. So all we're doing is strengthening these warlords, who then demand more and more money. And thirdly, we don't have a local government system there. So all the money that goes to the Balochistan in the FC award to the Balochistan MPs, they have something like 35 million, not 350 million rupees per Balochistan's MP. This money should go to the local government. So what is happening is that the powerful in Balochistan who come into politics get all the money. It never goes down to the grassroots level. In Balochistan, you need to fund what is our local government system, is directly fund the villages, where the people feel the benefits of the money coming in. At the moment, people don't feel anything. So the Sardars can blackmail this federal government by saying, by getting unrest, brewing up unrest amongst the population. So population must feel the benefits of development. And about TTP, the leadership of TTP does not believe in democracy and wants some sort of a state based on what they perceive to be Sharia. But that's why I'm saying that isolate the leadership from the foot soldiers. The foot soldiers are not there because they believe in some sort of ideology. Otherwise, the Taliban would have been in Pakistan when they were in power in Afghanistan between 1996 and 2001. There were no Taliban in Pakistan. So clearly that ideology, it's not because of the ideology that people are fighting with them. People fight with them because they are fiercely anti-American in that area, because of Pashtun nationalism, because they think the American war is a war against Islam. So that's the reason why people are blowing themselves up, not because of some Shariat they're going to impose on Pakistan, but because they think that Pakistan army is collaborating with the US. So if you take that motivation away, you will be able to wean away the foot soldiers, isolate these ideologues. That's how we win the war. And who will do that? Not the Pakistan army, the people of the tribal areas. Remember, the key to winning the war lies with the people of tribal areas, not with the Pakistan army. Because the more we use the army, the more TTP gets strengthened.
We have a problem with time because Mr. Khan has another program. He's being interviewed by BBC. They're waiting outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask 3 or 4 people to give their questions together. So I'll divide this group into maybe 2 or 3 groups, and you can have 3 questions. Okay. And each one can ask a question, but he will answer them in lots. Okay. I was here, so I'll go there. I'll take 3 questions from them.
Good afternoon, Mr. Imran Khan. I'm Chamal De Silva from Sri Lanka. I represent the Management Development Institute of Singapore. I'm a governing council member. My question to you is, despite what you believe you can do when you become Prime Minister, I sincerely hope you become, America has their own way of thinking and appointing convenient enemies and allies. So, do you think that they will go along with your approach of engagement? And how do you think the fact that President Obama is in his second term and may not quite require to be popular will be an advantage to Pakistan when going for a balancing approach? That's my first question.
Second one question, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Next one.
Imran from Karachi. Given the current political scenario, if you do not have a sweeping majority, who do you see in power right now as a potential ally?
Third one.
Akbar Ayub, I'm a corporate professional here. Mine is on leadership. As a leader, what do you think is a key differentiating factor that you have versus your political rivals that will help you turn around the country?
First of all, the US, I do believe that President Obama will be different in his second term, because I think Obama's instincts were always correct. He's a thinking man. I read this book, Obama's War, and he was always asking the generals the right questions, that what is victory, what will the surge achieve, and so on. But sadly, he got convinced, and my opinion is because he was too much under pressure from the right wing. He got convinced into doing the surge, and because of this re-election, the problem the US presidents always have of getting the second term. I do think that in his second term he will be different. I think he's intelligent enough to realize that this is just an insanity, this war. They've spent trillions of dollars. God knows how many hundreds and thousands of innocent people have died in this war. And what have they achieved? And what have they achieved? Surely, if this war was being won, we should at least be traveling easily on airports. But there's no ease up of security, so it means we are still under threat. So therefore, I think he will be a different president, and at least I'm hoping. Who will be my ally if we don't win the elections? Look, there are two types of politics. One is politics of power. You want to, like our great Miyasa, he's willing to ally with even anyone. I think he will be willing to ally with George Bush if he could get into power. Because the object is to get into power, and once you're in power, your factories start multiplying, your wealth starts growing. You're immune from corruption cases. You have an NRO. One took an NRO to go to Jeddah, the other one to come back. So it's the power is everything, and you will do anything to get into power. The other is power for a purpose. Now, I ask myself, and I ask you, which of these political parties that are sitting in power would you want me to ally myself with? If we want to, if I want to build a business empire, then I could. There are a lot of parties. By the way, every party is willing to make an alliance with PTI right now. Every one of them. But if we want change, then how can you align yourself with the status quo party and then change? You can't. It's a contradiction in terms. So the answer is no one. What is the difference? You're saying from the present leadership and what my leadership would be. The thing is that I don't need power. This is the biggest difference. I don't want power for me, the power will only be for a reason. So the big difference is, it's like, I'll tell you in cricket, for instance. Cricket captaincy, by the way, cricket captaincy is the only captaincy which needs leadership. No other sport, the captain needs to be a leader. In soccer, you don't even know who the captain is. And so in hockey and so. So, the coach is everything. In cricket, no matter what you do, the coach can never replace the role of a captain. The reason I'm the only captain who captained for 10 years in Pakistan. After I left, 35 captains changed in 10 years, the next 10 years. So the reason is simple. If your loyalty is to cause which is winning, you will be a different type of captain. If your loyalty is to the captaincy itself, because the people love everyone loves being a captain, the perks and privileges, then you will compromise to be the captain. If your objective is to win, you will not compromise anything that comes in the way of winning. So if my objective is, this is my strength, I do not need to compromise. I don't need an enemy. If I become a Prime Minister, the strength is, I will only become a Prime Minister on my own terms. Only on my own terms. I'm so used to giving speeches in Urdu, now I'm finding it difficult to find the words. So I would come on my own terms. And the terms would be that nothing, the famous Iqbal ka jo sher hai, कि उस रिस्क से मौत अच्छी है जिस रिस्क से आती है परवाज में कोताही. From achieving your objective, you only compromise to get to the objective. You never ever compromise on the objective. This is the greatest lesson of leadership. A leader never compromises on his objective. He compromises to get to the objective.
Being a Singaporean, my instincts are basically dictatorial, and therefore, and in the interest of time, I will ask you all to ask a question, but I wouldn't divide anymore, just a whole lot of you. Each one, very quickly, because he has got an appointment.
Okay, it's in
I'm
the
trying
news.
to accommodate as many as possible.
It's in the news that Tehreek-e-Insaf is facing internal strife, and two very important founding members of your party left the party and alleged that wealth has taken over your party. What are your views on this, and how can you defend that?
Thank you. Next one.
Hi, I'm Raza. I study in Singapore in the United World College of Southeast Asia. My question is, my mom always told me that there was a Pakistan where she could go with her sister in Karachi in the streets and not be scared in security. When will this new Pakistan be made? And go back to Pakistan.
Thank you. Next one.
So my name is Murad. I hail from a remote area in Pakistan, Mansehra. My question is about the global village, and Pakistan is being isolated more and more in this today's global village. What do you see, and how do you see that changing and having a positive impact on the economy and locally and internationally as well?
Good. Next one.
And my question is, how will you bring back the money of Pakistan from Swiss banks, and how will you scrutinize this current government? How will you scrutinize this current government, especially Mr. Zardari?
Hi, my name is Asim. I am a professional here in Singapore. I am an Estonian, and like my father, Saidullah Niazi Imran, you played cricket with him at Eastern College. He was your captain. My question is, I by and large agree with your perspective on Pakistan, and the way forward is probably if you become the top man in Pakistan. Now, for that to happen, the population in Pakistan needs to vote for you. Now, the perception is that the upper middle class and the elite and the educated are for PTI, and we have seen in the recent past where you've had huge rallies. Now, what's the PTI's strategy to attract and be appealing to the population in the villages where I believe People's Party has very strong hold?
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I forgot. The first question was very interesting. Just please get up and just remind me what it was.
About the internal strike, founding.
Okay. Look, some years back, 7-8 years back, there was no internal strike at all in Tehreek-e-Insaf. Everything was quiet, peaceful, because the party wasn't growing. But when the party grows, it's the sign of a growing party internal strike. This idea that the party is being captured by moneyed class means that Imran Khan has a price. Means that someone can buy my ideology. If moneyed class was going to capture Tehreek-e-Insaf, then Tehreek-e-Insaf would not be holding intra-party elections. The only way to ensure that you do not have groups capturing the party are intra-party elections. And in the intra-party elections, we have come up with such innovative techniques because we have 10 million members. 7 million voters. Now, out of 7 million voters, how do you hold an intra-party election? The Pakistan Election Commission in 5 years has not been able to give a correct voters list with billions of rupees, with government resources. So how is a political party supposed to make a list of electoral list from 7 million voters? The reason is we've used technology, we've used, and I believe future voting will be mobile phones. Now, the moment you hold intra-party elections, it breaks the monopoly of any people. It doesn't mean that the people who've been with us in the past are all good and people coming in are all opportunistics. Some of the best politicians have joined us. Some of the best in the political class have joined us. Some of our old ones were only there because no one would take them. So this intra-party election is the only way, elections are the only way of establishing merit in a party. About the global village, look, to get respect, you have to respect yourself. A country, a nation that does not respect itself begs and borrows for its existence. Only that worries about what people think of them, what other people think of it. If you respect yourself and live with dignity, stand on your own feet, people will respect you. So don't worry about getting respect. First, we have to stand on our own feet. This idea that only rich or educated people are backing Tehreek-e-Insaf because they're more aware means that you do not understand people of Pakistan. When I read English newspapers only, and I first went into my constituency in Miawali, and I thought that, these poor people, I'll have to really educate them about politics. I got the shock of my life that a 15-year-old stood up, because only in Miawali when I went in, at a micro level is what I imagine one day will happen at the macro level in Pakistan. So in Miawali when I went in and developed the constituency some 10 years back, the young boys, children, they were the only ones at my first public meeting. All the big political powerhouses were combined against me. All the big landlords were all against me. The peers were all bought. They were all against me. The older people were affiliated to political parties, but the young and the kids. So my rallies were full of these young and these kids. And so I went from one union council to the other, and wherever I had a rally, all the young came to me. Eventually, 4 months down the road, about 1.5 months before the election, the young had created this incredible atmosphere. The tsunami had spread in Miawali. Watching them, the politicians then started coming to me. And eventually I won by a record vote, just with the young people. So I imagine this is what would happen one day in Pakistan, and it's happening. So the young everywhere are coming to us. But the point I'm saying is that the young people, the young boys in the villages were more politicized than the people in the cities. Because in villages, people's lives depends on politics. The sort of political victimization that takes place in the villages where there's no rule of law, the people have to, everyone is aware. It's the reason why they do not vote for the right candidates is not because they're not aware, it's because they're scared. Because they face political victimization afterwards. Because there's no rule of law. Their life depends on voting for the right candidate. But when they know that there is a movement which will protect them from the strong, powerful, and the cruel, then you will find a bigger tsunami in the villages than in the cities. And that's what happened in 1970. The movement started from the cities, and then it went into the villages. And the villages overwhelmingly voted for People's Party. It's because the moment they had protection from this movement, they stood up against the powerful. So this is exactly, inshallah, what will happen in the coming elections.
Gentleman sitting next to Mr. Imran Khan, I've learned a little bit of overswing, So I have to go back on my word because I have to stop. This is unprecedented duty of a chairman. There are some small formalities. I'm sorry. I think Mr. Khan has covered the subject very comprehensively, and hopefully we can get him back to Singapore. Then you will be the first one to ask the question. Thank you very much. I'm very sorry.
Thank you everyone for the invigorating discussion. I would now like to invite Mr. S.R. Nathan, 6th President of Singapore, and Professor Tan Tai Yong, Director of ISAS, on stage, please. As a token of appreciation to Mr. Khan, we would like to invite Mr. Nathan to present his book, An Unexpected Journey, Path to Presidency, to Mr. Khan. On behalf of ISAS, I thank you for your presence and participation. Please proceed to the foyer for tea and coffee. Kindly exit the auditorium from your exit doors on the right and have a great evening ahead. Thank you.